Okay, so living in a cabin in the woods with your trad girlfriend and just being in nature all the time, um, having that very sort of traditional lifestyle. This is something that people kind of idolize quite a lot at the moment. Um, it seems like the kind of dream that you should have regarding, I don't know, just what you want to do in life. It's kind of move to the woods, peaceful, away from the sort of degeneracy of modern times and whatever. And I'm gonna sort of say why I don't think this is actually a great idea. You get a lot of people who are recommending this kind of stuff. Like Hamza's probably a good example, though he's sort of changed his mind about it now. But it is a general kind of thing online. This idea of like just have a traditional lifestyle out in nature. And well, there's one way that I could sort of say that it's bad, and that is through the fact that it's not actually as fun as people make it out to be. Like I do think it's pretty boring being alone with just one other person in the middle of nowhere. That's not a very natural way of how to live your life. And also, it's not very it's not very natural either. Everyone always talks about cities being unnatural, living in a big city with lots of people, as if it's healthy to live in with just one other person in complete isolation. You know, like it's so funny that people just forget about that when it's talking about the latter. That we're pack animals at the end of the day, and that we need to be surrounded by other people. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't problems with urban environments as well, but it's not much better. It's really worse to just live on your own in that kind of environment. So, but leave all that aside. Let's assume that, because I do think it's a personal thing. Let's assume that it is better, it is really fun to go and live on your own in the wilderness. I still don't think that it should necessarily be the right decision that people take. And fundamentally, I think it's a coward's way out to do that. And here's what I mean. So, I was reading a lot about, or I was watching some videos about early Christianity and kind of how it spread. And what was really interesting is the first Christians who spread the religion, they would spread it to big cities. So they go to Athens, they go to Rome. They'd be spreading it to the big cities in the ancient world. And they didn't really bother spreading it to the countryside. And so there were these situations where you had the countryside where people were still just worshipping pagan gods. But then in the cities, there was a very strong Christian presence. And the reason they did that is because they knew that the countryside will catch up with what's going on in the city. Because that's where things happen in the city, and if you want to influence the world, that's where you have to be. It's funny, I was in Speaker's Corner last week, and I just had this moment being there where I was like, the amount of videos I've seen online of this exact spot is just ridiculous, of things happening in Speaker's Corner. It's like a sort of bubbling pot of culture, of religious debate, of political debate, throughout the world. And I'm standing right here where it all gets sent out. It was really quite an exciting feeling. And I think cities are like that generally, And if you want to make an impact in the world, if you want to influence the world, you have to be prepared to engage with it. And how do you engage with it? You live somewhere where in a city, basically, where you have an influence over what's going on, you know? And I think so many people who are in self-improvement, like, they just want to run away from the degeneracy of the modern world, rather than face up to it and solve it from the inside, you know? Because the trouble is, if so many people like this, who are like sort of based people, who like, you know, have the good self-improvement habits, like they want a more traditional lifestyle, like whatever, if they all just run away to the countryside, then the modern degeneracy, or whatever you want to call it, like the modern sort of woke movement, has won, you know. But if you stay and you engage with it, maybe in the day to day you don't have quite a nice life, because you still have to put up with all the bad stuff we see in the cities today, but fundamentally you can change it and you're engaging with it. I think it depends on what kind of life you want to live. You know, some of us might look inwards and think, you know what, I think my deepest purpose really is just to prioritise my health, and develop a really profound relationship with Mother Nature, and I can only do that if I live in the countryside, you know. Fair enough. But most of us, like, if you have any part of your purpose where you want to change the world in some way, it's not going to be you're going to have to live in it. You know, you can't just remove yourself from it in this very forensic way. And that might mean putting up with negative things in city life. Like, I'm not pretending that. Like I said, I'm not saying there aren't positive things to living in the countryside, but I just think most of us have some kind of desire to engage with the world, rather than just completely isolate from it. And I don't see that being encouraged if you live in the countryside. Now, nature's very important. I think you should get regular exposure to the natural world. Like, if you like go camping, I think you should go camping regularly. You should try and live somewhere where there's reasonable access to countryside. Like, it's not going to take you hours to get to somewhere really beautiful outside of the city. I do think that's important, but it shouldn't come at... But, like, provided you got that, then I think you're probably fine, you know. Like, I mean, I used to live in London, and, you know, the countryside wasn't on my doorstep, but 1 hour train and you'd be in an area of outstanding natural beauty in just on the sort of west side. There's like a beautiful like natural park, you know, or there were parks in central London. There was Hampstead Heath, there's Hyde Park, you know, and I just think that ticks off like 90% of our need for like the natural environment. And then, yeah, definitely, like, I think it's still important to like go hiking with your friends and stuff like that. But you can do that in a city, you know. Like, okay, if you live in Mexico City or like Dubai or something like that, then fair enough, you know, maybe change where you live. But I think most places in the UK, you're probably fine, you know. I don't know what it's like in America, but I just don't think you need to not live in London because some based person on the internet was like, oh no, cities are degenerate, you should move to the countryside with your trad wife. I just think it's silly. Yeah, so anyway guys, thanks for watching. Yeah, let us know what you guys think. See you in the next one.